Hello, today I'm talking to Ben Bruce. Good evening, Ben. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your books.
Yeah, hi Donna, thanks. I'm Ben Bruce. I am the author of The Regulators, which is at the moment 2, soon to be 3, books about a vigilante organisation that fight crime across the UK. That's a very brief synopsis, isn't it? You can see them just in the background. There's the 2 of them. Yeah.
Did you always want to write?
Absolutely, yeah. I think for me, ever since I can remember, writing's been what I've enjoyed doing, writing stories especially. All throughout school, it was always, first school and middle school, it was always bring on English. I'm going to go and write something. I can't wait to write a story. By the time I was in middle school, I had a very successful series called the Granny Gribble series, which I had to read out to the whole class, which I'm pretty sure David Walliams has ripped off. It was about a crime-fighting granny with a rocket launcher, Zimmer flame and things like that. And that was the monthly highlight for our class when I'd read my Granny Gribble story. And Walliams definitely ripped me off there. And then I went to university, started studying film production and wanted to be a screenwriter. And then came back around to writing books again, and that's sort of been the circle. So yeah, I've never not wanted to tell a story. I've often got something to say, and sometimes it's best if I write it down rather than letting the mouth run away with me.
So what pushed you to eventually go for it and actually write?
I think, well, as I said, I've been to university and studied film and TV production. I ended up working in television production, which is still currently the day job as is. And all this time I was still writing scripts because that was what I wanted to do, tell my own stories. And I had the good fortune to meet a few people in different areas, and I ended up meeting the development team at Sky Atlantic based on a script I'd written. And they liked the script, but obviously they didn't progress with it. And they said they were looking for something to replace one of the shows they had on TV at the moment, and had I got anything in that mould. And I'd written a piece of fan fiction, for want of a better word, which would have been my continuation of the TV show 24 when that came to an end. And I thought, I can adapt that. I can adapt the plot that I had, take out Jack Bauer and put in my own characters. And that became the genesis of what became a script that I pitched to Sky. Again, didn't go anywhere, but I sort of fell in love with the concept. And that was The Regulators. And I was like, right, okay, so I can't sell it to Sky. There's probably not anyone else in the UK who would make something this sort of IP. The BBC is probably a little bit too actiony for them. So I've got to go and do something with this. And I knew that self-publishing was a thing. I knew it was kicking off. And I thought, I'm going to look into that and see how easy it is. The self-publishing, the technical side of it seemed a doddle, but then it was sitting down and actually writing it, which was less of a doddle. You've got to spend the time doing that. And that's what I did. I sat down and went, right, crack on. Let's get this book written. And a year later, I finally got the first one up.
Awesome. What did you read as a child? Did you read a lot?
Yeah, reading has always been something that has been. It's always been part of my life. I was up. One of my earliest memories is being dragged from the classroom to the head teacher's office for being the first person in my class to be able to read in reception, being absolutely mortified having to go into the next classroom and, oh, look, Ben's learnt to read his words. How old are you, Ben? And just absolutely shitting myself. Reading was, I always enjoy it. I love stories. I love going into different worlds and different genres. So when I was young, Fantastic Five, I absolutely adored that series as a kid. Read some other Enid Blyton stuff, The Faraway Tree and things like that. Not quite my bag, but The Famous Five was probably the first series I absolutely devoured. Secret Seven I then read afterwards, but I think once you read The Famous Five, The Secret Seven, it's not quite there, is it? And then I think like most teenage boys especially, sort of fell out of love with reading a little bit and so started getting to teenager years and going down the park, having a few cheeky beers and cheeky fags and trying to chase girls around and stuff like that. And so obviously for a couple of years I didn't read, and then after coming out of university I got back into reading again and got back into it in a big way. And I think what brought me back then was Jack Reacher, quite simply, Lee Child. I remember listening to the book reviews on Six Music, and they were talking about a Reach book, and just thinking that sounds exactly my cup of tea. So I went down to Smith's on my way back from work, and they had it in there, and that was it. I was back to reading and never looked back since.
What sort of stuff do you read now?
I mean, I read everything. I don't particularly believe in people reading genres. I'm not one of these people who can say, "Oh, I read crime or I read thrillers." I read everything on the bookcase there. Just had Christmas and my birthday, so I've got some factual books that I love to read, fiction. So I've got some new thrillers, sci-fi. I love sci-fi. I absolutely love sci-fi. Historical fiction, fantasy fiction. Do you know what? If it's a good story and it's a good character and it's well written, I mean, it doesn't really matter the genre. And I think, I know some people love different genres and different things, and that's cool, each to their own. But if you're going to give me a story that's got a good hook to it, if you're going to give me characters I can get invested in, and you're going to write it in a way that's going to keep my attention, I mean, it doesn't really matter the genre. I'm there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll read anything as well. And people seem surprised, but give me a book or give me something and I will read it. I don't care.
Yeah. I think there's this thing, and I don't know if it is necessarily just confined to literature, but I do think that, especially within literature, I think it's more amplified there, that people do find a genre and do stick to it. But very few people watch the same sort of TV show on television. And at the basis of every story, it's the same construct. You've got, you've got heroes, you've got villains, you've got a reason for being there, motivation for people to set the world to rights, whether that is through action, through drama, through crime, through science fiction, or if it's just through their emotions and things, and they look on a personal journey. And, I think perhaps in literature, sometimes we do sort of pigeonhole ourselves. It's something I'm keen not to do. Future plans will not see me staying solely in crime. I will come back to crime and thrillers and things like that quite often because they're one of my favourite genres. But I want to do other things as well. I think, that's just me.
Yeah, fair enough. It works for others, so why not?
Yeah, I'm often surprised when authors sort of change their names. I mean, a good example would be Galbraith / Rowling. She obviously changes her name to write in a different genre. I just think everyone knows it's you anyway. Why do that?
Well, they didn't at first, I don't think, did they?
No,
I think it was leaked. So
but I think at the end of the day, perhaps you wanted to just let the book stand up on its own accord, and that's fair enough. But there's the cynic in me says, look, you're J.K. Rowling, stick your name on the front of it. You can sell 1 billion copies.
Perhaps she's rich enough already. She wasn't bothered.
I don't know. There's always things you can spend it on. I think if I ever reached J.K. Rowling's level of financial solvency, I wouldn't last at that level for very long. There are plenty of things. My money would easily come. I look at, you look at these people like Rowling and the billionaires like Bezos and Musk, and you think, how on earth do you keep that much money for that long? Because it would be gone. It would be gone. Not all of it totally indulgent either, but effectively.
Yeah, cars, houses.
Yeah.
Private jet, just to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah, a bit of philanthropy on the side. You can't take it with you. So send it back out into the world. People say, why do you want to make more money? Well, if you've reached a certain point where you've reached enough for yourself to live comfortably, keep making money so you can go and do something good with it. Don't keep it to yourself. Can't just, when you sat there in a coffin, you can't see your bank balance anymore.
What do you enjoy most about writing, and what do you dislike?
What do I enjoy most about writing? I love telling. I love disappearing into other worlds. I love sort of being alone with me characters in my head. I love letting them talk to me. I love them explaining the stories. I love going on a journey with them. It's fantastic. Even as a writer, I think you can often be surprised by the story itself. Because you'll have a plan. All writers will have a plan where they're going with it when they set out. But your characters are living, breathing people in your head, and they will shape it for you. And that's what I love about it. I love reading because I love being surprised by the stories that I'm being told. And I enjoy that part of it as well about writing, because it does change, and it does, you know, you'll come to a point in a chapter and you'll get to the end of the chapter and you've gone in a slightly different direction or a completely different direction. You're like, oh yeah, wow, how did I not see that coming? And you get them surprises. And that's the bit I love. It's telling stories. It's what we've done as a species for generations, eons. It's why we are where we are now. If we weren't able to tell stories, humanity wouldn't exist. And I'm just enjoying, just, you know, bathing in that sort of glow of the forebearers and doing the same thing they've been doing for generations. It's what makes humanity just, you know, what it is. What do I dislike about it? I dislike, at the moment especially, I dislike having an idea for the next book that I want to write before I finish the one that I've finished. That absolutely does my head in, because I'm there like, oh, I've got this brilliant story and I've got to go write it. I've got to finish this one. But I haven't got this one. And then you get that sort of tear in your head, because you want to just, when you sort of get the nugget of an idea and you start to fall in love with it, you do just want to, you know, embrace it and just, you know, go and bathe in it for a little while. And at the moment, I can't do that because I've got so much, you know, not so much, but I've got to get this last book completely finished. I can't take my eye, I can't distract myself, I can't dilute my thought process. So there's a few things bubbling away, and we'll see which one comes to the surface when the chance comes. But that's probably the thing I hate the most about it. And to be honest, I don't really hate that much. That's a fun problem to have. I don't really hate anything of it. It's absolutely the best thing I do. I love, at the moment, it's not my full-time day job, and you know, it makes me a nice bit of coin, but not enough to pay the bills completely. But at some point, hopefully it will do, and then I'll just be able to do what I love for the rest of my life. Ah, man, wouldn't that be the best?
It would, yeah. If you were to be transported into your books, who would you get on with best?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I'd probably get on well with Adam Morgan. I think me and him, we've both got that sort of cheeky, chappy persona. We both like to have a little bit of banter at each other's expense. We both like to go down the pub and just, that's where we do our best thinking. In that respect, Adam is massively an extension of me. You know, he's often sat there and he's faced with a problem. He's like, oh, I'm going to have a pint and think about that. That's exactly what I do. If that's what I'm struggling with lockdown a little bit with my stories, because, you know, I'd love, if I'm struggling with an idea or I'm not quite in the right space, then pop down the local, have a couple of pints and just sit there and let the brain expand. And that's always, yeah, Adam and me would get on well there. Yeah, he'd definitely be my cup of tea.
And if you were to do a spin-off, which character would you choose?
Reuben Arrowsmith. I've already done a little spin-off for Reuben. He had a short story. He was a fascinating character. Again, when I talk about how your books can surprise you, Reuben most definitely surprised me right in the first one. He was, I'm not going to give any spoilers in case you haven't read it, anyone who's not read it yet. But there was quite a definitive storyline for Reuben. And as the book went on, I was like, no, this guy's got something. He's got a little bit more charisma than I thought he was going to have. He's got a little bit more charm. He's not completely all bad. I mean, he's quite bad, but he's not completely all bad. And I saw salvation for him, which I hadn't seen when I envisaged the character. And I decided to give him salvation in the end. And yeah, so he ended up getting a spin-off book, and I absolutely intend to go and do something with him. He had a spin-off short, and will I give him more of a primary focus in a later Regulator novel? Quite probably. I think he's got a lot to offer as a character. I think he's fun. I think he's vicious in a way that none of the other characters are. He's ruthless. And yeah, he was a really good character to write, and I just wanted to keep writing him, and I will continue to keep writing him.
When you wrote the first book, were you planning on writing a series?
Yeah, absolutely. So when the original idea came about, which was for the script, obviously that was going to be a series, and it was the original idea of the original idea came from the 24 sort of idea, and that the point of the storyline that the original script for 24 was at was well down the line from where I started the Regulators at. The Regulators was going to move to that sort of arc. So at some point in the Regulators series, there will be a book which will be what should have been season 10 of 24. But John Cassar wouldn't open my email. Well, he wouldn't open my document. He opened my email and emailed me back, but he was like, I can't read your script, mate. I'm still attached to the project. And I was like, oh, one of those. So at some point there will be a book. So yeah, it was always going to be a series. I'll probably approach the series in a different way after I finish this third book, which sort of ties up a trilogy of storylines. I think each next book will be more standalone, which will then drop into the next one afterwards. I think that'll be a better way for me to do it, and I can sort of spend my time then between other properties that I want to concentrate on. Some which will be series, some which will be standalone novels, some which will be standalone novels within a series.
Do you hide any secret jokes or messages in your books that only a few people will understand?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, there's a number of Nuneaton Borough footballers that will appear within the Regulators books. They're, Nuneaton Borough, greatest football club in the world, obviously. But yeah, Nuneaton, I've answered incorrectly earlier, didn't I? Absolutely hate writing character names. It's the worst thing in the world that I've ever done. I really struggle with that. I really, really struggle with that. So having a list of male names to hand in the form of matchday programs in my lot is really helpful. And I do sometimes amalgamate players that I dislike from opposition teams into bad guys. It just makes the whole process a lot less painful, because I think every writer's got this one thing that they procrastinate over, and names is mine. So they drop in there. I do drop a few of my friends in there every now and again. I don't put them in as individuals. I take two friends and amalgamate them together to create a new character, which usually takes on their best traits, honestly. In the second book, in the second book, there's a chap called Nathan Nelms, who's based on two of my good friends, Nathan Walker and Stephen Elms. Both of them are journalists, and he was a journalist. So I thought, well, I'll just use him. I'll just use those two to make him. It helps. I find it helps sometimes, especially with characters that aren't as key to the plot line, where you don't need to necessarily delve into their backstory when you're writing the book, but you still want to know that person when you're writing that person. It helps just to put two people that you know together and just write them into the book, and just, then you've got that backstory of that person in your head, and you get a much fuller character than you ever would have done if you just try to gloss over it a little bit. So yeah, I think they're the only two things I do. Oh, and yeah, obviously because the Regulators was originally based on 24 fan fiction, they do often say "God damn it," or "We're running out of time." Things like that. It just gets slipped in there at least once or twice. Son of a bitch! Once or twice in a book, they would do a Jack Bauer line. Because, you've got to give a nod to what you write, to what your peers are.
Hopefully, you've not put any Luton Town players in as your enemies, as your villains.
No, not yet. No, we all seem we never got absolutely tonked by you until the season you won the league and you bought like 3,000 to our place, and I think you put 5 past us on a Sunday afternoon. I remember that one, but I think we got a couple of draws against you. I'm sure we beat you as well.
Doesn't sound right.
So we seem to not have the worst. At that time, you weren't a team that we were fighting with directly, so we didn't fall out with you too much. But no Luton Town players in there yet. But you never know. You never know what might happen.
It'll take a few years for us to be in the same league again. So
I think probably never.
You never know.
I hope not, for your sake. I mean, maybe we'll get bought. Maybe I'll sell enough books to buyers and bankrollers into the football league. But I think that's the only chance, isn't it? A lottery win. What's the Euro Millions numbers tonight?
Oh God. Who's your favourite fictional character ever?
Oh, no, that's easy actually. Are we talking just books, or are we talking just general fiction?
Up to you.
Okay, in general fiction, it's Jack Bauer, without a doubt. 24 was my awakening in terms of moving from film, moving from sort of short form content, like 2 hours. I always wanted to write films. So watching 24 was my realization that actually you can tell a fantastic story over a much longer form, which without that, there's no way I'd be writing novels, because I don't think a film doesn't translate into the same sort of time frame as a novel. You don't get that sort of breathing space, which is why film adaptations of books are always either like supremely long or just they don't work. They're shallow. So yeah, I think that was he's my all-time favorite fictional character in that respect. My all-time favorite literary fictional character. I want to say Jack Reacher because he's the ultimate vigilante, but I feel like that's too cliched, and we're having a lot of Jacks right now. Oh no! At the moment, I know exactly who it is. At the moment, I've just read last year. I read an absolutely fantastic science fiction book called "Children of Time." Children of Time or Children of Men by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I can't remember exactly the title. It's fantastic. And Portia the spider is my favourite character within books at the moment. She's fantastic. It's an incredible book, an absolutely incredible book. If you've got any slight interest in science fiction, do read it. It's mind blowing, and she's a fantastic character. So yeah, Portia.
Awesome. I'm gonna ask you about that at the end, so I can write it down.
Yeah,
I never remember otherwise.
I would say if you've got arachnophobia, don't read it, but I don't like spiders, and I still enjoy the book. So I think if you've got arachnophobia, unless it's really severe, you'll be all right with it.
Yeah, no, as long as they're, like that, then I'm fine with spiders. Any bigger than that.
Yeah, well, they're not like that, but it actually helped my arachnophobia. It's one of those books that you get to the end of it, and I think you sit the reflections I did on that book afterwards. Yeah, a good few weeks of just reflecting on the key concepts and what we can learn from it as a species as such. It's a really fantastic piece of writing, and as an example of world building goes for any author, I think the first 3 chapters of that book, to create a complex world and mythology within 3 chapters, as Tchaikovsky did, it was exceptional writing. It's so good. It's one of the best written books I've ever read.
What's your writing day look like?
It varies, obviously, because I have a day job, but I'm a freelancer, so I'm not used to having. I don't do routine. I've never done routine. Since leaving school and college, I worked in pubs. So I was working shifts, and I was working long hours and finishing late. I've never worked a 9 to 5. I couldn't do it. I was lucky that I got into television, where you are a freelancer and you do different projects every couple of months and you're doing different hours. There's no such thing as a set day. I find set days just drive me absolutely balmy. So yeah, at the moment, the current gig I'm on, I'll finish work and I'll, spend a couple of hours with the family and the kids, and then I'll, sit down with a laptop for a few hours every evening and bash out some writing. That's the usual standard at the minute. But of course, if there's a couple of weeks between contracts, then I'll sit there and just spend all day writing. And sometimes I'll just take a week off, because if it's not there, I'm one of those. A lot of people say, "Oh, you should write 1,000 words a day." It's just nonsense. If it ain't there, it ain't there. Don't force it. Never do something you're not enjoying. And if I sit there and go, "I don't want to write today," there's plenty of other things I can go and enjoy myself with. It's probably why Regulators 3 is delayed a little bit, but we've had a pandemic on it. All our heads have been all over the place, so forgive me on that one.
What's the most interesting thing you've found while doing research?
Oh, that's a good one. What's the most interesting thing I've found in my research? I mean, you learn a lot about the dispersal patterns and the size of blast about nuclear blasts when you're doing books like mine. You're there on there's websites where you can actually type in like the kilotons of a nuclear device and place it in certain places within London and see what see what's going to get obliterated and stuff. And I'm pretty sure MI6 have got a file on me by now. Yeah, that was fun. Researching sort of future technologies and things like that, and trying to find a way to embrace them into what the technology that the regulators use, because they're meant to be a sort of well-funded, cutting-edge group who don't have to go through like government proposals and things like that. They don't have to tender their contracts out. They can just get something and buy it and build it and do what they want with it. So, I learned a lot about AI and things like that and how that's been used. Yeah, they're the sort of things that I really enjoy, that, learning new tech and things like that. But I think, yeah, that's definitely, they're always the fun things. Yeah.
Yeah, that the website with the nuclear thing sounds really cool. I kind of want to go look at that.
It's well worth a look, because you're sort of surprised yourself, one, how small some of them can be, and two, how big some of them can be. And it's like, yeah. And then you sort of look, you're looking at like, well, there's an army base near us. And what if yeah, yeah, it can be unsettling.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
If you were able to spend a day with an author, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh. An author, who would it be? Do you know what? Tolkien. Ultimate world builder. I love people who allow the absolute breadth of their imagination to just run wild on a page. And Tolkien's the master of that. What he created in terms of that universe in Lord of the Rings is so endearing even to this day, and it's so compelling. It's near enough perfect. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter what you think of the stories. I mean, I loved The Hobbit as a kid. I remember reading that in year 6 and just demolishing that. Whereas I didn't necessarily get on with The Lord of the Rings as well as that Tom Bombadil. Can't stand that Tom Bombadil. But the world that Tolkien created and how that has perforated into modern culture, all right, through the films, but even before the films and the books and everything, it's just such a rich and fantastic universe, and you'd love to just sit down and get a glimpse into how his imagination works. I want just to understand his thought process, just to see how he, because he's got to exist in that universe a little bit himself. You don't create something like that if you're not going to bed with your head just drifting into that world every time you fall asleep. And I'd love to just talk to him about what he knows about that universe that we don't know, because I'm sure there's more to Middle Earth than what we mere mortals will ever see. What Tolkien took to his grave, I'm sure there's so much more, because it's just, you can't write a world like that without, I don't know how you can write a world like that. I'd love to write a world like that, but I don't think I ever could.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's so beautifully written. I mean, to the point where he can tell you everything they have for dinner every day and stuff. I mean, yes, Tolkien's writing isn't for everyone and everything like that, but I think you have to just sit back and admire what he did as an author in creating, as a world builder. And I think every author has to have a little bit of that when they go into their books. If you're not creating, even if you're setting it in the real world, if you're not creating your vision of that real world accurately, people aren't going to buy into it. And I think, we talk about characters being important, a storyline being important. I really think world building is the most important part of any author's job, even if it's real world, because your characters and your storyline exist in that world, and if that world isn't seeping into both of those things, then your story isn't going to work.
Are you friends with lots of other authors?
I'm building myself up in the community because I'm a relative newcomer still, and because the old Panny D's been kicking off. Last year I was hoping to get to Harrogate, and that didn't happen. So I've not met many in the flesh. So I'm hoping that when this settles down, I've been building my network, building my community. but doing it online, and I find it hard to necessarily create proper functioning relationships with people via a computer screen. I'm not capable of doing that, really. I think I have to experience somebody in the flesh to know them. I can't understand a person properly unless I'm sitting there with them and getting their interaction, watching their nuances, seeing how they react to what I'm saying and being able to react to what they're saying. I think there's so much that we get in that in proper human interaction, one-on-one discourse or group discourse, or just proper physical discourse when we're all sat around a table in a bar or something. So I'm trying to build that network, but I do struggle with it because I'm behind a computer screen and typed words, nuances, and I can't judge how people are reacting. I was having a conversation with a couple of people within the community today, and it's like, well, I've got some jokes that I could drop here. I don't know how you're going to react to that, because I've been talking to you for months, but I don't know how you're going to react to that, because I've not seen your reactions. I've not heard you. I've not caught you off guard. No, you don't catch anyone off guard behind a computer screen. And it's only when the people's guards are down that you know who they really are. I like to think I'm quite honest and open, but I'm sure people would say that, you know, maybe the people that I talk to at the minute, when they finally get to meet me in person, will say, well, not quite what we expected. Or more likely to go, yeah, you are a gobshite. Yeah.
I have no comment on that at all. And then you get people like me that just don't care and say whatever.
Well, I used to do that. The problem was I realised that sometimes I'm quite appalling. Not really. I don't know if I should have said that.
Well, I'm not editing, so it's there now.
Yeah, no. That's what's and all. Let your guard down.
Yeah. At least I told you beforehand anyway, so. But yeah, definitely no editing. I told you beforehand there's no editing, so.
Exactly, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, just it's not happening. Which has just made me completely lose my train of thought. Which happens frequently. Do you hear lots from your readers?
I do. It surprised me how much I have heard, actually, to be honest. Because when you start out, especially as a self-published author, and not really, when you do start as a self-published author, you don't really know where your book's going to go. You sort of think to yourself, well, I'm going to sell 50, 60, maybe 100 copies to friends and family, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know how it's going to go beyond that. And when regulators, the first one, started to, actually do something, I was like, whoa, hold on. People that I don't know are buying my books. What's this all about? And then people were placing comments on like the Facebook group and saying how much they enjoyed the book. And then, randomly people started emailing me and feeding back to me. And it's like, this is, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting people to genuinely do that. But they did. And it's been lovely. And I've got, I spoke to a couple and it's just been really nice to have that interaction and to know. I mean, the first guy that ever wrote to me saying, I really enjoyed your book, that I didn't know, I was like, oh, box ticked. That's all I ever came for, was to hear somebody who I didn't know say they enjoyed it. Because, you sort of know that not everyone's going to get into it, but you sort of wonder if anyone outside of your peer group, your friendship circles, your family is going to, the first time you write something, and it just alleviates those doubts. So I was really surprised by the niceness of the community, and by how open readers are and how willing they are to share their feedback. And it's been great. I've not had one so far, touch wood, it will happen, but I've not had one negative interaction with people yet, and I do appreciate that from people. It's just a nice world to sort of exist in, isn't it? When people are cool like that,
Yeah, it seems to be just a genuinely nice place. Actually, I find the readers and the authors are all genuinely nice, and you know, and the interactions are great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there don't seem to be many egos and stuff, and you know, nobody seems to be. Everyone just seems to want. I think books are great because books open up a world to you that you can envelop yourself in, and no one forces you to stick with a book. They very rarely tend to be like a TV show where if you go into the office the next day and you haven't seen it, people are, why haven't you seen that? But books, you do them in your own time. There's no time scale to it. So if you've read a book, you'll say, "Oh, I've read this book," and then, "Oh, I haven't read that. I'll go and read it." There's no, you don't get judged for not having read a book. People are like, if you say to someone, "I've not read that book," oh, you've got to go, give you a copy and all that. And it's that community. Everyone wants everyone to, everyone's building everyone up in the reading community. It's bloody lovely, and I love it. And even if people don't find it's their bag, very rarely do you find anyone making a truly like negative and nasty and vindictive comment. And when they do, people call them out on it. So it soon gets shut down anyway. So it's just a lovely world to exist in. It's grand. Yeah, I enjoy myself.
Yeah, I can see. Who's your hero?
Me granddad was my hero. That's a no-brainer for me. He was the nicest man I ever met, the most decent man I ever met, and nothing fazed him. 3 fantastic qualities. And if I can be a fraction of the man he was, then I'll be happy. But yeah, he was my hero. There's no one else who would ever come close to that. He was just an inspirational gentleman, and a proper gentleman. He's a great bloke, and I don't think I quite match up to him in that respect. But my son's quite nice, so he might follow in his footsteps. He's got a lot of the same qualities, even though he never met the man. But there seems to be something in the genes that have passed down to him. But yeah, he's my hero.
And what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
I don't get embarrassed. I wish I could tell you something. I mean, I can tell you stories of stupid stuff I've done, but I don't get embarrassed. I don't feel. I won't say I don't feel shame, because there are things that you do that you should feel shame for. But if you do something silly and it's just a bit silly, don't be embarrassed. Embarrassment, no, I don't subscribe to that. I've done things that I'm genuinely ashamed of. But that's a different story, and it's much more darker conversation than I think we're going to go to right now. But no, I mean, if you can moon a taxi, get run over and break your neck and still think that's hilarious, then I think you're all right, and that's where I'm at.
Every time I speak to men, their stories involve some kind of nakedness. What is it with you boys and nakedness?
I think it's some sort of I mean, it all boils down. We've all got far too much testosterone floating around inside our bodies. We're all trying to one-upsmanship in each other. And I think, the biggest way to do that is bare bits of ourselves in the middle of the frozen northeast night.
It's not. It just isn't.
That's what we do. It's a sad factor of our gender, and yes, unfortunately, I have played my part in that, and got the battle scars, got the stories to tell, but nothing that embarrasses me. Everything I'm proud of, not proud of. Some of it I'm proud of. Yeah, some of it, a lot of it.
Go on then. One story then. What's your best or one of your least?
The icebreaker story is exactly as I said. I was coming out of a nightclub when I was 23. There was a big queue for a taxi, and I decided, well, I'm not waiting for a taxi. I shall make one stop. And I attempted to make one stop while being in the middle of the road, and it did stop about 50 yards after it passed through me and bounced off its bonnet over its windscreen and pirouetted through the air. And yeah, broke my neck in 2 places, fractured my pelvis, and learnt my lesson.
I would just say so.
Yes, that was an interesting phone call to the parents the next night from Sunderland all the way down to Nuneaton. Yeah, mum, dad, all right. Yeah, I've had a wee accident, broke my neck. Broke my neck. Yes. But as you can tell, I made a full recovery. it didn't knock any sense into me. But yeah, that was the silliest thing I've ever done. I probably should be embarrassed by it, but it's one of those. I think we all do things. To put a serious slant on it, I think we all do things in the heat of the moment that we know are stupid and we know are wrong. But there's something inherently human about doing stupid things because we do learn from them. And I don't think we should be necessarily embarrassed by them. I think we have to embrace the mistakes we make. If we're embarrassed by the mistakes we make, we become more scared to take more risk and to push ourselves to be better. And some risks are good and some risks are bad. And there's no way of knowing which one is which until you actually do it. And I think society can force us to be so innate and so conformist and so boring if we don't do stupid things that we don't learn what are the good stupid things and we don't learn what are the bad stupid things. And we don't actually push ourselves to enjoy life a little bit, because sometimes you'll do something a little bit stupid. It will be an enjoyable experience all round. I mean, I've got a lovely story to tell over a pint down the pub about my neck. That's great. But sometimes some of the other stuff I've done that's been stupid, I've really enjoyed myself. No one's got hurt. No one's been wronged. And we've done silly things and it's been great fun and we've took a risk and we've enjoyed ourselves. And yeah, embarrassment is a concept I find really, really hard to appropriate. Because I used to get embarrassed when I was a kid I was embarrassed about liking girls, never mind just asking one out. It's like, you'd never, oh, I don't like a girl. And it's like, why should we be embarrassed about, I was embarrassed as a cis man, you know what I mean? As a hetero man, I was embarrassed. And, I don't like the idea of embarrassment to be something that I percolate through to my kids, because I don't want them to be embarrassed about who they are. I want them to be honest and open about who they are, in the same way I'm honest and open about who I am. So I'm not embarrassed and they shouldn't be embarrassed, and none of us should be embarrassed. We should be who we are, embrace it and just live with it. And yes, some people will go, well, that's a bit silly. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely much more fun not caring, isn't it?
Yeah, it has its moments where it's not fun. Yeah, I've been a lot happier person in my life since I stopped caring what other people think. that's the God's honest. I was having this conversation with my son. My son's 6, and I said to him the other day, look, I have been a lot happier since I stopped caring what anyone thinks about me. My life has just been better, and it hasn't been worse, and I haven't upset anyone, and I haven't done anything that I regret, and I haven't done anything where I think, well, that person would rather I hadn't done it. I've just felt happy. I've just stopped caring about what other people think about me. It's been nice. Nothing's changed in terms of who likes me and who doesn't.
What superhero power would you have if you could have any?
Oh, superhero power. That's a good one. Because there's a lot of different superhero powers you could go for there. I mean, flights are good. I've always wanted to fly, but I don't know if I'd stick at that. Super strength would be nice, because it'd be nice to know what it's like to be strong. Being 6 foot would be a start. Nice to know what it's like to be tall. I'd probably set the bar really low and say something like, being 6 foot tall. I wouldn't take up that much, that much of whatever magic serum we're dishing out. Superhero power. I think it would be nice just to know what other people are thinking. Not completely, just to get a general idea of their emotion, because I struggle to read other people in terms of, how they're feeling and stuff like that. I'm not the greatest empath in the world. So it would be nice to know how people are feeling, and nice to know perhaps sometimes when to pull back and when to push on. So that'd be my superpower. Maybe just a little colour appear above their head, like a little mood ring, so you could go, oh, red light, they're angry, green, oh, they're happy, they're enjoying themselves. So I'll take that. That'd be my superpower.
If you were deserted on a desert island, what 3 things would you want with you?
Deserted on a desert island. That's That's a good question. Well, something to play music got to be a start. So like an MP3 player with some sort of chock full of songs. Music scores my life. I love music as much as I love books and literature, and it's just yeah, music. It's another art form. It's another expression. It's another way of storytelling. It's wonderful. So yeah, I'd need that. Let's have a think. What else would we need? Well, if I've got music, I'd like a crate of beers and a deck chair, and then I'm set. Music, beers, and a deck chair, and I'm set. I don't like lying on the sand, which is why I've gone for a deck chair. I can't lie back on the sand because you can't tip your head up without getting a crick in your neck. And given what I've done to my neck, you can understand why that's an issue. So I need a deck chair and a few beers, and then I'll sit there and play some tunes, drink some beers, and sit on my deck chair till I get rescued or the beers run out, and then I'll probably have to go swim with the fishies for a bit.
And if you were to invite 4 famous people to a dinner party, who you invite?
Ooh, that's a good one. 4 famous people to a dinner party. So the first one, I'm gonna have to pick one of the Gallaghers here. Well, maybe we should invite both and try and patch things up. No, I'd probably pick Noel for a dinner party. If I was going to the pub, it'd be Liam, but it'd be Noel for a dinner party. So Noel Gallagher would be the first. I think it'd be fascinating. Who else would I invite to? Let's have a think now. I think, yeah, Katherine Ryan. She's hilarious. She can definitely come to my dinner party. She's absolutely hilarious. And then no, not finally, because I was counting myself there. I don't count as well. I can't invite myself. That's rude. So 2 more. So we've got Noel, Katherine Ryan. Probably need someone a little bit more highbrow here, don't we? Oh, it's a struggle. This is. Why am I overthinking this? Kiefer Sutherland for the Jack Bauer portrayal, and just again because I said I was going highbrow. I absolutely lied because I think he'd be quite good for an actor. He's meant to enjoy a good drink, so I think I'll get on well with you. And then the final one, Richard Osman. He's hilarious. He's intelligent. He keeps the conversation flowing in ways that the rest of us probably couldn't. He'd keep his calm. I've met Richard. He's fantastic. He's really tall, so he won't be intimidated by anyone either. So yeah, Richard Osman would be the 4th one.
Awesome. I think he's really underrated, actually. He's a very funny guy, isn't he?
He's hilarious. He's so clever. He's genuinely funny. He's genuinely nice. He's a really lovely bloke. Yeah, I've got a lot of love for Richard Osman.
Yeah, I'm slightly jealous now as well. I've seen him at a distance when I've been to see Pointless recorded, but that's it.
Yeah, no, I had to meet him out of a taxi one time in my TV days, and yeah, we had a wee chat in the elevator and everything like that. He's a lovely bloke. Yeah.
Awesome. What's coming next for you after your 3rd book in the series?
Yeah, so 3rd book in the series is coming out sometime probably late spring. And then after that, I've got a couple of other projects that are coming up. So there'll be 2 coming out, hopefully in fairly quick succession. The first is a non-fiction book. It's called How Not to Get a Job in TV, which chronicles my time trying to get a job in TV and failing miserably. It's an idiot's guide not to do what an idiot did, basically, which was me, because you get all these different books from all these different people telling you how you can get jobs in different industries, how you can do this. And I'm sorry, each and every single one of them is a snake oil salesman, especially when it comes to TV. There is no hard fast. He make it impossible, and I've done most of them. So I think it's only fair that I warn people of all the things I've done. So as well as me digressing on all the silly things I did, I might have attempted to get a career in television. I've also interviewed a number of people who work within the industry, especially within recruitment, especially within talent finding and talent scouting. and I've talked to them about how we can actually rectify the mistakes that I made. So it is actually, there is some work to it. It's not just an idiot rambling on. So that will be coming out sometime this year. It was meant to come out last year, but I held it back because everything that was going on with the Panny D, I thought, I really don't know if this is the right time to be dropping that. I really don't know what the industry is going to look like afterwards. But it looks like it's going to look the same. And I think the advice is still sound. So that's that. And that's sort of halfway written anyway. And then the next book after that is we're going back into crime, you'll all be glad to know. And it'll be a crime thriller set within the 1960s, following a London detective in the newly formed CID, set in the 60s, investigating the murder of a black dot worker. And it'll be following him and from and their quite unusual relationship.
Awesome.
I don't want to give too much away because it's a key point of the story. I've not quite worked out the marketing yet, so I don't want to tell you too much about what goes on with their relationship, but it's a key point of the story. And it's I think the whole book is what I'm writing it to be is sort of an allegory of sort of the way policing and relationships have been strained in the last few years. And I'm trying to do an examination of that, but not sit in the current day past, when I think perhaps I can more dive into a more obvious interpretation of the issues, when perhaps things are a bit more above the surface. I think things are perhaps slightly overt now. I don't know if you necessarily can catch them as well. So I'm trying to create some sort of allegory of that. And it's a really interesting concept. It's one of those that I'm either going to get absolutely right or absolutely wrong. One of the two. I'm hoping for right. It looks like it'll be fun.
Sounds good. Well, I don't have any more questions for you, unless there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell everybody about.
Well, yes, I do have one brief announcement, and that is that the regulators, obviously the Shadow of Malice, the second book, is currently available on Audible. And I'm delighted to announce that the first book will be arriving on Audible very, very soon, hopefully by the end of March, early April. That is currently in production. Virginia Ferguson will be returning as my narrator. And yes, we're looking forward to getting that back out. So then you'll be both on Audible, hopefully around the time the third one's released. And then I'll do that on Audible as well. And then we'll have the whole trilogy in all formats for all people. And you can all go and buy it.
Awesome. So before we go, do you want to tell everybody where they can find out more about you and your books?
Yes, I do. So you can go to www.benbruce.co.uk. You can't enter Facebook because at the moment I'm banned, apparently. Don't get me started on that. Facebook algorithms have put me in Facebook jail and I am seething. So yes, benbruce.co.uk is where you can go to my website, or you can just put Ben Bruce, The Regulators, into your Amazon search bar and that will take you straight to the books. And what better way to find out about my books than just reading them?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
No worries. Donna, thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.